in the Bible, then where did Easter originate? Scholars agree that the name Easter has its root in paganism. It is never used in original scriptures, and its exact origin remains uncertain. According to Bede, it is connected with an Anglo-Saxon spring goddess. The time, the customs, and the traditions of Easter all come from ancient pagan, non-Christian religious celebrations. Thus Easter was originally a pagan festival in honor of the goddess of spring. The word Easter is supposed to be derived from Eostre or Eastra. Eostre was the deity of both the dawn and spring, and the pagan symbol of fertility. At her festival in April, sacred fires were lighted on the hills, especially in the Nordic lands. During the same season, the ancient Romans observed the feast of the vernal equinox. Over the centuries, Easter celebrations have also supplemented many more customs, mainly incorporated from springtime fertility celebrations. Hot cross buns stemmed from the pagan festival which had the Saxon fertility goddess sacrifice an ox. Thus the horns in the form of a cross became a symbol of the season, carved into breads. The cross represented the moon, the heavenly body associated with the goddess and its four quarters.
Fundamental thing for me was, as I became older, I think it was around 13 or 14, I started to question the whole concept of even Easter. What was its significance? What really did it entail?
First off, I think for Christianity, we have built an awful lot around the cross, truth suffering, something that even Mahatma Gandhi latched onto in his campaigns, this idea of suffering for the truth. That has to do with the cross, that has to do with the idea that even the Messiah had to suffer. And even though he was the Messiah, it would appear to us that it cost him his life.
Whenever Christianity came to a country, the people were pagans. And instead of throwing everything out, they took on some of the rituals that they were doing, because it made sense to people.
As Christianity spread throughout Europe, buns were made in the traditional method, but the cross now symbolized the crucifix of Jesus. The Easter bunny and eggs both represent fertility. Dyed eggs were also used as part of the rituals of the Babylonian religions. None of these pagan traditions have any relevance to biblical teachings. Moreover, in accordance with the Old Testament, such practices should never be adopted. Take heed to thyself that thou be not snared by following them. After that they be destroyed from before thee, and that thou inquire not after their gods, saying, How do these nations serve their gods? Even so will I do likewise. Thou shalt not do so unto the Lord thy God, for every abomination to the Lord, which he hateth, have they done unto their gods. For even their sons and their daughters they have burnt in the fire to their gods. What thing soever I command you, observe to do it. Thou shalt not add thereto, nor diminish from it. Deuteronomy 12:30-32.
But what do the earliest sources tell us about the events which occurred between Good Friday and Easter Sunday?
The inaccuracies, contradictions, and inconsistencies in the New Testament cast a great shadow of doubt on its reliability and accuracy. In view of this, the most ardent scholars have attempted to go back to the original early sources, ancient texts of the Bible in the form of codices, fragments, and manuscripts, in the aim to try and trace exactly what happened during the life of Jesus. Such ancient sources have come to light through archaeological findings. After decades of excavation, archaeological discoveries have provided evidence and assisted researchers in verifying the reliability of the Old and New Testaments. Some discoveries have shed completely new light on the biblical stories. Amongst the discoveries were the Codex Sinaiticus, which is the oldest surviving Bible in the world. Codex Sinaiticus is also one of the most important witnesses to the Greek text of the Septuagint, the Old Testament in the version that was adopted by early Greek-speaking Christians, and the Christian New Testament. This manuscript of the Christian Bible, written in the middle of the 4th century, has immensely contributed to the reconstruction of the original Christian biblical text and history. When examining early texts, the process of searching for the truth becomes ever more complicated for Christians.
So there's many theories. As you mentioned, there are a lot of different communities, and within a lot of communities, there, say Muslim communities, there are different interpretations of whether or not Jesus appeared to die on the cross or not, whether it was someone else who was substituted there. There are even Christian heresies that suggest the laughing Messiah, someone else went there. We really don't know. We don't know for sure. We have many interpretations, and I'd say in respect to all the scholars, there are many views that we just can't prove, that so much time has gone, there are no eyewitnesses we can interview, and even if there were eyewitnesses we could still interview, they would have a different story. That's why we have 4 Gospels.
It's a place of mystery that they don't know. It's even a place, it's quite a dark place, that it's a place people don't want to go to. A lot of the ancient Psalms are saying, like, I don't want to die, because the dead cannot praise you. God is only with the living. So it's, you know, it's not really well understood, but we leave it to mystery.
According to St. Mark's Gospel, as contained in the Codex Sinaiticus, they went out and ran away from the tomb, besides themselves with terror. They said nothing to anybody, for they were afraid. There, according to Codex Sinaiticus, the Gospel of Mark comes to an end. It does not so end, of course, in the authorized version of the English Bible, nor in the received texts of any of the Orthodox Christian churches. Their version all continued with a further 12 verses. The scribe who brought Mark's Gospel to an end in Codex Sinaiticus had no doubt that it finished at chapter 16, verse 8. He underlined the text with a fine, artistic squiggle and wrote, "The Gospel according to Mark." Immediately following begins the Gospel of Luke. In Luke 24:51, we are told how Jesus left his disciples following the resurrection. He blessed them, was parted from them, and was carried up into heaven. This last phrase, "and was carried up into heaven," does not appear in Codex Sinaiticus, nor in Codex Vaticanus. According to the textual critic C.S.C. Williams, if this omission is correct, then there is no reference at all to the ascension in the original text of the Gospels. The early century manuscripts, Codex Sinaiticus, Codex Syriacus, Codex Vaticanus, and Codex Bobiensis, do not contain the last 12 verses of the Gospel of Mark. This is a notable omission. It is these verses only which contain the description of Jesus' resurrection appearance. Since Mark's account seems to be not only the earliest, but also that on which Matthew and Luke based their accounts, a question arises. What is the basis for the accounts of Jesus' bodily resurrection, according to Matthew, Luke, and John? The fact remains that God saved Jesus from dying as a result of the most extreme, shameful form of punishment, that of crucifixion.
Jesus had many bad things done on him. He was scourged and called names and mocked and laughed at, taken away from his friends, totally lost on his own. And he did nothing back. He remained silent at his trial. He didn't fight. He didn't defend himself. He didn't start a revolution, because the disciples wanted to get swords and start a big fight and throw out the Romans and defend him. He wouldn't let anybody do anything. And he was killed. In one sense, you could say he took the evil to himself and took it with him into the grave.
He did not die as a criminal, openly, shamefully, and disgracefully in the eyes of the world, as mentioned in the Bible. Cursed is every one that hangeth on a tree. Galatians 3:13. Christian belief relies on the historical event of the resurrection. If Jesus was not bodily resurrected, he was not God. He did not redeem mankind, and Christianity would have no standing. And if Christ be not raised, your faith is vain. You are yet in your sins. Corinthians 15:17.
I know in Islam it says, Shubha laham, it appeared to them. And it appeared to them that all around, whether they were soldiers who were used to crucifying people, or people who were the audience of crucifixions, to the followers of Jesus, that Jesus died, that he was taken off the cross and put into a tomb. And on Sunday he was not there. So that was God's intention, for the people who observe this event, that this is what unfolded.
So where do we go from here? If there is no record of the resurrection and the ascension in the earliest and most authentic biblical sources, then what did happen? How can we access the true mission and message of Jesus and the original gospel given to him by Almighty God? How can we discover the truth?
O Jesus, I will cause thee to die a natural death, and will exalt thee to myself, and will clear thee from the charges of those who disbelieve, and will place those who follow thee above those who disbelieve, until the day of resurrection. Then to me shall be your return, and I will judge